Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Whole Health Story. I'm Tracy Gaudet. I'm the Executive Director of the Doctorate of Whole Health Leadership at SCU. And today we're going to do a slightly different, more in-depth experience rather than me just talking to you about some information. This is an invitation to you to start to bring whole health into your own life. So I would invite you, if you want to do this experience, please either click the link below or in our bio and download the health reflection tool. It's called the Whole Health Reflection Tool. And go ahead and print that out before we start. All right. And you can pause me and do that. So I'm going to lead you in this process. And this is a unique opportunity to reflect on your health and well-being. One of the things that's different about this is it's not the same as giving a medical history. It's not designed to be a factual recounting or a factual reporting of your medical history. Quite the opposite. It's really designed to give you an opportunity to pause, turn inward, and really reflect on a number of aspects of your whole health. So the nature of it is different. So I'm going to start with a little bit of what I call settling in, which allows you to just kind of take some deep breaths, get into a more relaxed place. Really what we're trying to do there is invite you to set aside your intellect and your busy mind and drop down more into your heart and your experience. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with that. And then I would invite you to stay in that relaxed, reflective space as you fill this out. Because again, this isn't an intellectual reporting. This is a checking in with your body and your soul, honestly, and allowing yourself to have the gift of the wisdom of your body and soul. So it's a really cool process, but it is an unusual way of thinking and being. So that's what we're up to. So if you have it printed out and have something to write with, just put that down in front of you. You're not going to need that right now. And I'll let you know when you'll want to open your eyes and reflect on the tool itself. But initially, I would invite you, and I will close my eyes too, to just what I describe as settle in. We're so busy all of the time, plugged in everywhere, every moment into multiple things. And this is an opportunity for you to turn all that off. I would ask you to put your phone aside, anything you can do to create a little bit of space for yourself. This is about your whole health. And just, if you're comfortable closing your eyes, close your eyes. If that's not comfortable, you can just lower and soften your gaze. And just allow yourself to take a few conscious breaths. So of course we're breathing all the time, but allow yourself to turn your attention to your breathing. That's one way to settle the mind. The mind's always busy and active, and so it helps if you give the mind something to focus on, and the breath is always there. So that's a great exercise. And if you'd like to do some other way of settling in, feel free. But for these few moments, I would invite you to perhaps turn your attention to your breathing, not needing to alter it or change it in any way, but just beginning to notice. How does it feel on the inhalation? How does it feel on your exhalation? Noticing those really interesting spaces between the inhalation and the exhalation. That's interesting. And between the exhalation and the inhalation. And just allowing your body to settle, your mind to settle. Your mind is likely active anyway, and that's fine. But in these moments and in this experience, you do not need to get caught up in the thoughts. You can notice them, I love this metaphor, like clouds passing through the sky. Oh, there's another one, and let it go. There's another one, let it go. And allowing yourself to settle more deeply into a state of relaxation. And then when you're comfortable, you can go ahead and open your eyes. I would invite you to stay in this more relaxed, settled space as we go through this process. So not really pulling from your intellect, but just the first thing that comes to mind. I'd ask you to turn to page 2 of the Health Reflection Tool. And And again, don't overthink this, just whatever comes to your heart or your mind. When you think about your physical well-being, on a scale of 1 being miserable and 5 being great, how are you feeling physically today and in this time of your life? And just first thought that comes to mind, just check it off. When you think about your mental and emotional well-being, same scale, where 1 is just miserable, 5 is great, where do you feel your mental and emotional well-being would lie? Spiritual well-being, however you define that. When you think about your spiritual well-being, 1 miserable, 5 great, don't overthink it. Where do you think you are in your spiritual well-being? And the last of those scales is living your life day to day. When you think about how it is to live day to day, just getting through your day, miserable to great. Okay. The next section at the bottom of that page is a space for you to begin to reflect on your sense of meaning or purpose in your life. And that can sound like a really overwhelming, big thing to figure out. And it is, actually. It is a big deal. And it changes all the time. It's not like this is my purpose in life. But this is just a beginning opportunity for you to reflect on when you pause and think about what matters most to you. There's many ways to ask yourself this question. What matters most to you in your life? What do you live for? What do you want your health for? These are all different ways to ask the same kind of question. What brings you a sense of meaning and purpose? And just jot down, you're not turning this in, jot down any thought that comes to mind. And then I would invite you to peel back a layer on that. So a lot of people, for example, would say, my family matters to me. Okay, that's great. What about that matters to you? And again, you'll start to learn that the deeper you go, the more layers you peel away, the more profound this exploration becomes. So take a few moments reflecting on what brings you a sense of meaning and purpose, what matters most to you in your life, what you want your health for, whichever of those resonates with you. And then peel away the layers a bit. What about that brings you a sense of meaning or purpose? What about that matters most to you? And you can revisit this many, many times. This is just a beginning conversation. But it's a gift to give yourself the opportunity to do this. We're so busy managing our lives every day. We rarely stop and reflect on this. And then you can also take as much time in any section that you want. But moving on to page 3, this is going to walk you through each area of self-care. And I'm going to actually describe the area of self-care as you reflect on it. Because it's not, again, it may not be the description you're expecting. And the 2 things you're going to ask yourself is on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is kind of optimal or high and 1 is low, where do you think you are now in that area of self-care? And this will make more sense as we do it. And where do you want to be? And I always like to point out that this isn't the situation where, I want to be a 5 in every area of self-care. I don't know anyone like that, and I kind of don't want to. So it's an honest reflection. Nobody's judging you on this, and you shouldn't judge yourself. So be honest as you go through this about where you are now in that area of self-care and where you actually would like to be. And again, I will kind of walk you through and guide you through this. So the first area of self-care is power of the mind. And this is the recognition that our mind is incredibly powerful. Our thoughts are powerful. They affect our physical, mental, emotional being, and that we can use the power of the mind to optimize our health or to undermine our health. There's lots of ways to do that. But when you think about the power of your mind in your self-care, do you feel like that's great or not so great or somewhere in between? And where would you like it to be? And again, none of this you should overthink, just what first comes to mind. So I'm going to keep moving. Next is moving the body. And this isn't just like, do I exercise as I'm told to? No. This is about your relationship with your body And there are many ways to think about that. Exercise is one, but dancing, walking, gardening, stretching, moving your body, and using that in a way that brings you pleasure or joy. So when you think about that area of self-care, where are you now and where would you like to be? Okay? Surroundings. And this involves wherever it is that you live, you work, you play. Our surroundings can either fuel us because they're beautiful, we feel at ease there, we feel comfortable, or they can drain us. Maybe they're incredibly stressful, whether it's visually, whether it's what you're hearing, or just how you feel in that space. So when you think about your surroundings, again, where are you now? 1 to 5. 1 is low, self, not good. 5 is great. And where would you like to be in addressing your surroundings? All right, relationships. And by this, we mean relationships of all sorts. Some of people's most meaningful relationships, for example, are with their pets. So it doesn't have to be human relationships. But when you reflect on relationships, which certainly have a huge impact on our health and well-being, are you surrounded and engaged in mostly relationships that are positive? And again, I like the fueling and draining construct. So that fuel you, you feel energized and good about. Or are you around a lot of relationships that are toxic or draining or somewhere in between? So when you think about the self-care area of relationships, where are you now? 5 would be essentially all my relationships are in great shape. And 1, the other end. And where would you like that area of self-care to be? Food and drink. And as we all know, what we eat and what we drink can have a huge impact on our health and well-being. But this is more than just, are you following a healthy diet? This is your relationship with food and your relationship with drink. Do you feel like that's healthy and good and strong and that you're using food and drink to nourish your body? Or do you feel like it's at the other end of the spectrum? So again, where are you now? 1 to 5. Where do you want to be in the domain of food and drink? Rest and recharge. There's a lot of ways. This includes sleep and your quality of sleep and your quantity of sleep, but goes beyond sleep. So there are lots of different ways to rest and recharge your body and your soul. So when you think about, am I resting? Am I recharging my body, my soul, my being? How am I doing in that area of self-care? Where are you now? Where would you like to be? You've got the idea of this now. Skills and ability is a part of how you spend your time in your life. And when you reflect on how you spend your time, is it feel aligned with things that are healthy and you enjoy? It's not only about your job, but job's a good example. If you have a full-time job and it's really difficult and draining, that's going to put you to the lower end of the spectrum. But when you reflect on where you live or work or play and how you spend your time in developing your skills and your abilities, do you feel like that's a strength and you're at the 5 side of things, or an area of weakness, or not an area of strength? Where are you now and where would you like to be? And then lastly, in terms of self-care, your spirituality. And you can define that however that is for you. One of the ways I like to think about it is where and how do you get a sense of things bigger than yourself? So for some people, it's through organized religion and their church or their synagogue. For other people, it's being in nature. For others, it's art and music and poetry. Whatever that is for you, what brings you a sense of connection to things larger than yourself, your spirituality, and how, when you think about that aspect of your self-care, is that for you currently from 1 to 5? And where would you like that to be, 1 to 5? Great, so that's a big section of this health reflection tool. There's a space for you to think about your professional care and whether or not you have the right team of people that you want or need to support you professionally, or whether you'd like to add some folks. So I'll give you just a moment to jot any notes you'd like about your professional care. And then when you reflect on your community, the last section on that page, your community, whether that's a small community or a town or a city in which you live, or however you define community, what are your thoughts about that? Do you feel like you're in a healthy relationship and a positive relationship with community? Or is that something that feels like a place you'd like to address and maybe work on? And again, just initial first thoughts. All right, so turning to the last page, and this again is an iterative process. You're going to look at this over and over again, we hope. But in this first exposure to this, when you look at your areas of self-care, and one tool that I think is really helpful is looking the difference between where you are in any area and where you want to be, and perhaps paying attention to the places where that's the biggest span. So if you are currently a 1 in any area of self-care and you really want to be a 5, let's take some time and think about that area of self-care. If you're somewhere where you're a 2 and okay, maybe I'll be a 3, or I'm a 3 and maybe a 4, probably not the area you want to start with. But in the end, I want you to choose an area that you want to start with that you're most drawn to, even regardless of the numbers. But sometimes the numbers and that initial reflection can help lead you to what area of self-care do you want to begin to focus on. And one of the aspects of whole health is there's not a right wrong. And while medically someone might say, oh, you should focus on X or Y or Z, the whole health approach allows you to start where you want to start, where you're drawn to start, where you're inspired and motivated to start. So no judgment around what you choose, but you choose an area of self-care where you would like to start, and just go ahead and make any notes you'd like in that section. And then perhaps give yourself a moment to reflect on how, if you address and change some aspects in that part of your self-care, how could that support what matters to you most? How could that support your sense of meaning and purpose? How could that support you living your best life, so to speak? And then the last section there on the last page is give some thought to one action you could take today to get started. And I would encourage you to take a very small step. A lot of times we get excited and motivated and we say, oh, we're going to, take on a whole new exercise routine or a spiritual practice and go big and bold, which seems really exciting in the moment, but usually is really hard to integrate into your daily life. So I really would like you to choose one small step. A small step is better than a big step, believe it or not, in that area of self-care that you have selected. And go ahead and write that down. And then what I'd like to leave you with is that there's a lot of power in speaking this and sharing this. So if you have a friend or a family member or a colleague, and lots of times they get interested in what you're doing and they'll join in the whole health journey as well. But I would encourage you to just find somebody to talk to online or in person or whatever works about this experience, and also what you noticed, what was surprising to you, what you selected, and what action you're going to take if that feels comfortable. We know that helps take this approach and make it real in your life. So I would invite you to do that, and I appreciate you diving into this and sharing this experience with us. And please join us for another session of the Whole Health Story.